Alright, this week it's time to get back into the usual flip-throughs. And this week we're going to go over Glory of the Giants. And Bigby is a wizard from the Greyhawk campaign set, and he just studied under like a Mordenkainen. And so like you can get into the Greyhawk series and get into the whole background with Bigby and Mordenkainen. And of course I'm probably mispronouncing Mordenkainen's name and everything like usual, so people can probably correct me on that. But this one is pretty much all about giants. So most people are probably familiar with giants, whether if it's through fantasy, what comes to mind is the depiction of the cave trolls in Lord of the Rings. I'm sure everyone remembers the movies and stuff, how the cave trolls are depicted in there. And of course you got in mythologies of the past, you've got the depictions of giants and everything. So in Greek mythology, what comes to mind for me is the Cyclops, and then of course in Nordic mythology, you got that pretty much the gods are in constant battle with giants, and Thor is famous for being the giant killer. So you got the giants in there, Thrym and Surtur, and you got a whole mythology based around giants and everything. So but the fantasy context for this actually lets people play and use dragons, or at least dragons, giant themed content. So I'm used to talking about the Dragonlance and everything. So like the dragons, the giants were some of the first races in creation. So for instance, chapter 1 here, Diane Castra, she is a daughter of the god giant, or the giant god Anon. He was pretty much the creator of the giants, and Diane Castra is a daughter of him who became a demigod. And this is her saga, and this whole book is about her and Bigby going back and forth about talking about pretty much the giants and everything. So this first part gives you a quick overview of the breakdown of the chapters, just pretty much every other book that I've done. And so it gives the rundown, okay, what you find in each chapter and everything. And like I said, Anam and the giants use the god of the giants, sort of how each race pretty much has their own specific god or goddess or whatever. So this pretty much gets into the background of the history of how he created the giants, and how he failed to live up to his expectations, and how their empire fell along with the dragons, and how the lesser races of elves, dwarves, humans, and everything came about and kind of overthrew their empires. And so it gets into the different types of giants and everything. So I mentioned Cyclops is, and of course they and they do talk about trolls and ogres and everything. So they give a whole litany of information on the different types of giants. And then of course it also gets into the actual campaign settings, and how you can see here the Forgotten Realms. It talks their whole background information for them in each campaign setting. The Forgotten Realms, Greyhawk, Dragonlance, even Eberron is another famous one that I remember from 3rd edition, even though I haven't played myself. And now it gets into a character creation, where you can actually create characters based around the whole giant theme. So a barbarian path, the giant is basically a subclass you could use for the giants. So as a subclass, it gives you abilities and stuff that you can get if you decide to go down this road with your barbarian class. And so it gives a description of each ability that you get. And of course it gives a nice description of a halfling giant barbarian. So and think of it the halfling, this one right here depicted, there's someone raised by the giants and everything. So you get kind of you might not necessarily be the actual giant, but you do get traits and having grown up with the giants and everything. So they give backgrounds that you can do with bonus feats, just any other character class. And then they do give you ideas for origin, personality traits. And so it lets you flesh out basically giant based characters and everything. So Rune Carver is another type of class or subclass that you can use, and like again, it gives like information like what kind of style of like rune carver you play, the personality traits you do, and like of course like it goes into further detail on like giant type characters and everything. So and like it gives you a whole like tables on how like for like ideas, or you can, as you can like tables like this, you can roll like the actual like d6 or whatever, or you can just go down the list and be like, oh hey, I like this one, so I'll go with this one type of deal. So there's no like a set roll where you have to roll for these tables. You can always like pick and choose too. So and it gets further into the feats and ideas like for different like subclasses or like that or stuff that you can multi-class into based on like what your character has previously done. So like here's like a picture of like that subclass Fury, the Frost Giant, and so like it gives you like I said, abilities for this one, for this class, and gives you ideas. So like this whole first chapter is basically running giant theme types of characters. So then the next chapter pretty much gets into like how like you as the DM would play giants. Like so for instance, like using Forgotten Realms as an example, if like you're in the Icewind Dale area, you could use like frost giants as an example, and this gives you an idea on how to run like frost giants as like NPCs and or like as villains. So like again, like it gives like the pretty much the stereotypical table that you can like roll like a d8 to find out like okay like what's their behaviors, what's their motives and type of deal, or you don't necessarily have to roll. You can sit there and pick and choose type of deal, and just pretty much like on any of these tables. So like it gives lifespans and how long the each actual giant lives. It's just like in the player's handbook, it does for like the typical PC character classes like the elves, dwarves, halflings, humans, and stuff like that. So like I said, it gives you plenty of these tables that you can either roll or pick and choose on, like so you can flesh out like your characters. So like whether you're like in the first chapter deciding to play a giant theme type of character, or like in this chapter you're running as like the DM as like NPCs or as villains. So it gives you like a litany of like ideas, like and more in a sense ammunition on how to run NPCs, villains, and so like if for instance like people are getting like tired of like the same old monsters, this book is all designed towards maybe running like giants, which like for the most part, like in at least in the campaigns that I've played in through over the decades, these giants tend to be overlooked and everything, because like a lot of times I think like DMs I've played with, or as like even DMing myself in the few times, tend to overlook giants because they're going to be too hard for people, and so like we've got to give them like these types of challenges instead. So like, and of course like your stereotypical vampires and werewolves too as well are like more geared are much more popular. So this is bringing like the whole concept of this book is to bring the giants to the forefront and be able to give people like, hey look, here's something that's usually overlooked and everything. So here's something you can use to like bring in like a highly overlooked and probably like a forgotten idea of the game and everything. So, and also you get into like the gods and religions, and so like for instance like Anon, he's like I said the pretty much the creator of the giant race. So Diane Castra is the demigod who was his daughter, who she did get immortality from through the whole story, through her helping her dad or whatever. And this book does go through that. So like I did mention Surtur and Thrym. Those are like two giants that are kind of popular in Nordic mythology. So like Surtur is a fire giant, and Thrym is like a frost giant, and like at least that's how they're portrayed in this game. And so like people that are into Nordic mythology will probably be familiar with those two. So like and of course you got also like these other gods and each one is kind of like specific to like each type of like a cloud a giant race, like the cloud giants, storm giants, like I said, fire giants, frost giants, So it does differentiate between the giants here of like several different, like in a sense, sub races of all the whole overarching giant race itself. So this goes into even further like a detail of the gods, the religion. It gives the like a background information of like each god, and also get you can see like here like lesser known gods like interlopers, like for instance the Yenogu, the for ghouls, and so like Baphomet. I'm sure like people like familiar with like Wiccan and or witchcraft are probably familiar with Baphomet as a depiction of like kind of like an anti like Christian symbol. So like right here he's depicted pretty much as like a demon and everything. So like he's portrayed like that, at least in just the game. So like of course in real life he does have like a different persona. So he gets into those and also gets into like pretty much like your elemental evils. So like air, fire, water, earth, which you can kind of like use giants based around like the elements and everything, because like the dragons, they were pretty much one of the first races to build empires and everything, so they have like a much more connections to the actual elements and everything. So it goes into even further detail, like gives you like adventure ideas for like Anam's children. So like again, like with this table, like you can either roll or you can like read through and pick and choose like, which one would work best for you, just like all these other tables that appear throughout all this book and everything. So you don't necessarily just have to roll or you have to pick and choose. You can do either or a combination of both. So this, pretty much like goes through like the even more information on like that, like and how to roll up like the whole like background information on like like the if you're running more than like just one, having one giant appear in an adventure, you can have like a whole family, and like maybe you go into like actually giant territory as an adventure group, and like that gives ideas for this stuff and everything. So, and also gives like ideas for like the organizations of like the actual giant society and everything. So like gives you like, even like over here ideas for rune adventures, and so these tables are like pretty much scattered throughout the book to give you those ideas to run through a giant themed uh, campaign. So like and of course then in chapter 3 here is, like I said, like gives like a whole like a chapter just devoted to like the giant adventures and campaigns that I've been talking about. So like you got the whole, the first two chapters are kind of since background information to get you set up, and then like this goes even further to help like once you get all that background information set up, this gives you the whole idea of like the with going forward after that background information, so you can like run giant character like PCs, or you can have like a group of PCs going through like the giant territory, like I said, and like have like a bunch of different encounters, and based on like different like locales. So like usually like frost giants are like in like Arctic settings. Hill giants you would probably like likely find in like the foothills and mountains and stuff. So like you can like in a sense like do like a locale themed adventure as well, based on each of the different races of the giants. Of course, you can also have them appear outside of their normal locale type of deal, so you don't necessarily have to find like a frost giant in like the Arctic setting, like an example that I used. And like of course also it gets into like a dinosaur type theme theory, as you can see, like so maybe you go into like a prehistoric area. Like I know like in Forgotten Realms there's like in the southern part of the map, I'm sure people can remember the jungles of Chul or something. Like I'm sure people can like correct me on like, the actual like name of the jungle, but like back in that area there's a whole litany of like prehistoric type of adventures you could run, so you could use that for that area. Or like if you're into world building as a DM, you can pretty much make your own type of deal. You don't necessarily have to use like a pre-existing campaign setting. So like and these tables go even further into the several different types of encounters you can do. So like I like these tables, even though I tend to like lean more on the side of picking and choosing instead of just rolling. So like I'll sit here and I'll read through like all the different types of encounters, like oh hey, like this Hydra one kind of looks kind of cool, so I think I'll go with that. And then like the next table I might come across and like okay, giant constructs. Oh, like let's see here, like oh, this cadaver collector looks pretty good, so I might do something like that. So like I'll sit here and pick and choose type of deal. But like you might be someone who likes the rolling method instead, so like it'd be like let's say you create much more random type of encounter doing the rolling. So like again, like I said, this whole chapter is based on like running the actual adventures, where like the previous two chapters were based on getting things set up before you actually run it, so that way as a DM you have like all that background information set up. So like as like a lot of times as notorious groups are notorious for, is you get everything planned out and you want them to go right, but then you end up going left. So like gives you ideas. So like when that happens, you can kind of like go with the flow type of deal. You're not just trying to railroad people into like, well, I want you to go this way, not this way, so I'm gonna have to try like this definitely gives you like the ability to kind of like adapt your campaign to like the actual group and everything. So, and like it goes into further detail of like the history of what actually happened and everything. So like then like chapter 4 actually gives you like the background information on like maps and stuff on like for instance, like this first one on Anam's Cradle, it gives you like a whole layout of like how like an actual village and like a city was once run, and like or how it was once laid out, and how like the giants like were built stuff. So like it also gets into different like maps and stuff, or like areas that you can use to kind of like run the actual adventure for locations. So like you have in a sense like pretty much pre-made maps and locales, so you don't necessarily have to do the legwork yourself of actually doing the stuff yourself. Now if you're into that, you can use these as models and kind of like build upon that, or you can just go from scratch. So like it's all pretty much up to you and how you do stuff. So like this chapter just pretty much, like I said, gives you templates that you can use to like if you like are kind of in a bind to like maybe you didn't like prepare as much, or maybe something like came up like the instance, like I said, you want the group to go right and then they end up going left. Well, like maybe you need to make something up on the fly. Stuff like this would be great to like be able to just like pluck out and like, okay, here, let me use this, and like since they went somewhere I didn't expect them to go. So like that's what like these pre-made locale maps are great for, is that like it gives you like a template of locations to run encounters and or adventures, or even maybe a whole based around a whole campaign, where like you can just kind of like grab and go type of deal. You don't necessarily have to do as much legwork, so like you got like everything already set up for you. So like that's what's great about like stuff like this. It gives you like quick, easy to use stuff to be able to like improvise in case things like take that left turn, like I've mentioned a couple of times. So like and of course like any of these supplemental books wouldn't be complete without like chapters on like actual treasure that you can get through like doing battle, or like traveling through giant areas or playing as giants. And so like it gives you ideas on how different like treasures, like magic items, and the whole litany of that stuff. So like I said, any book, a supplemental book, wouldn't be I think wouldn't necessarily be complete without like a chapter on treasures. So you can kind of in a sense reward your give more ideas for rewards for your characters. And of course, just like the treasure chapter, you wouldn't be complete without like the whole book on actual monsters. So like it actually gives like a big chapter on this one's actually kind of in depth and everything, because you get like quite a few monsters and different types of like giant themed monsters. So like for instance like new one here would be like the Death Giants. That would be like a different type of idea that you can use instead of your stereotypical Frost and Fire Giants or Hill Giants. So it gives like also dinosaurs and like different even more like the Eaton itself is in like the Monsters Manual. This one gives you like a different version of the Eaton itself. So I'll reiterate, any supplemental book wouldn't be complete not only without a treasure chapter but also with a bestiary. So it gives you more monsters to be able to throw at your party, or maybe you could maybe quite possibly run as NPCs if you're in giant territory, or like maybe give ideas to run as PCs themselves and everything. So this is just like another tool to like expand like the monsters and stuff that you can throw at characters, or like I'll keep reiterating, like you can run any number of ways as well. So like it just gives you more tools of the trade type of deal. So like in a sense, like always, like all these supplemental books, it just pretty much helps expand your campaign setting that much more and everything. So like even though like I'm big on that, like you technically only need the player's handbook to run stuff like this, definitely helps in like if you're looking to expand. So like you may have been playing for like a campaign or two with just the player's handbook, and like you finally got maybe the Monsters Manual and the DM guide to expand, and now like you're kind of looking to, like I said, in a sense expand. So the stuff like this is like great as the supplemental book, even though not necessary. They do give you those like added benefits of like even more material to be able to expand your campaign, so you're not necessarily having to do as much legwork on your own. You can sit here and just like open the book and be like, okay, like I want to use one of these monsters, and so I don't have to necessarily do like the whole write up. I don't have to sit here and write up this whole character myself. I can just already have like a pre-made monsters and stuff, so that way I can run things like a lot easier. So this is pretty much like the whole concept of the Glory of the Giants book, in that it pretty much brings the Giants to the forefront and lets you kind of like utilize in my opinion, a underutilized race or races of monsters and or characters that you can like use going forward into your campaign. So like it opens up like a whole new type of like a chapter that you could do. And like I'm sure like a lot of people like I know like myself like never really ran like a giant theme type of campaign. I can only recall once, maybe twice, of like giant characters actually appearing in any campaigns that I've been through. So like I said, this one is great in the sense like it definitely does open up like a whole new options for like types of like, campaigns that you can run, and it gives you that much more for options and everything. So if you're definitely looking to like get into something that's a type of like characters or races in this case that again in my opinion, like I've said, have been underutilized, definitely pick this one up and everything, so that way you can expand even further and quite possibly do like a whole new different type of campaign as well.